So here we are, the Saturday, the day in between. After I'm passed over, it's the day in between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, both of which, of course, are a great focus in the church calendar and in our lives as Christians as well. But what are the day in between? Well, let's read in Matthew 27 and just a few verses, 62 to 66, what was said about the day in between, the Saturday. After sundown, the high priests and Pharisees arranged a meeting with Pilate. They said, "Sir, we just remembered that the liar announced while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I'll be raised.' We've got to get that tomb sealed until the third day. There's a good chance the disciples will come and steal the corpse and then go around saying, 'He's risen from the dead.' Then we're worse off than before, the final deceit surpassing the first." Pilate told them, "You will have a guard. Go ahead and secure it the best you can." So they went out and secured the tomb, sealing the stone and posting guards. That was Matthew 27 and read from the Message translation. Actually, it's not mentioned much in the Bible. In the four Gospels, the only account of those events is covered in Matthew that we just read about in Matthew. Saturday was, of course, the Sabbath day, a day of rest, and so reasonable perhaps that not much was said or was going on. And couple that as well with the fact that Jesus' disciples, his friends, his family, had and were probably emotionally drained. They'd seen and witnessed Jesus flogged, tortured, mocked, put to death in the most horrendous way. And frankly for them, it had been a long and harrowing day the day before on Friday. So perhaps Saturday, not much happening. I don't know. Jump ahead to the next chapter in Matthew, and maybe that's for tomorrow, so I won't say too much about that. But Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, who's described as being with her, seemed not to be focused on the resurrection for all sorts of reasons that we just said. Maybe that's not unreasonable. Perhaps they were still very emotional, quite not unreasonably. It's interesting also that Jesus told his disciples and those close to him on a number of occasions that he would die, but that he would rise again. And I sense maybe a little bit of unbelief from the disciples that would happen. That may or may not be. That's just my hunch. What is clear, though, from this account is that the Pharisees and the chief priests had remembered what he'd said. I wonder if they believed it. I reckon they might have done, They went to Pilate and they said, "Hey, Pilate, we remember what this man said while he was still alive. 'After 3 days, I will rise again.'" Did they believe or did they not? Did they just think the disciples would remove the body and then claim Christ had risen? It seems to me that they perhaps took Jesus' claims more seriously than many of those around him, and in fact closer to him. Either way, those few verses and the brief mention in Matthew, in my opinion, actually serve to demonstrate the miracle of the resurrection. Just understand it. The tomb, as I believe, was hewn from rock on a hillside with only one entrance. Traditionally, sealing was carried out by rolling a stone across, and then a rope was placed across that stone and sealed in clay at each end. Pilate then ordered further precautions by posting guards outside the tomb. What's interesting to me is how God uses people with different levels of faith and trust in various situations. I reckon that the Pharisees failed to understand that sealing the tomb, the rock and the seal on it itself with the rope, and a guard, or even maybe an army, could not stop God and the fulfillment of previous prophecy. They couldn't stop Jesus rising from the dead. So very briefly, what do we take from these few verses and this short account? Well, the first point is that God can use anyone and everyone to fulfill his promises and purpose. Faith is, of course, important, but not necessary for God to put his plans, to work his plans through. Whether or not the guards or Pharisees, the high priest, believed, Their actions actually supported the miraculous nature of the resurrection. Without sealing of the tomb, without the guarding of it, it would have led to a lot more speculation and simple explanation as to the disappearance or removal of the body. And the second point, really, for us to take from these verses, I think, is don't ignore or waste the in-between time. You know, just like that period between Christmas and New Year, which can be a bit flat, can't it? And we sometimes perhaps wonder what it's all about. It's an opportunity. More importantly, perhaps don't ignore or assume that while you're waiting on God, that nothing is happening. Nothing could be more wrong. God is working his purpose out day by day. So listen, as we approach Easter Sunday tomorrow, maybe take time to reflect on the promises you